Thanks, Gerry. And I just want to, on behalf of the Board of AgriSearch, bring today's proceedings to a conclusion. Just if I might make a couple of comments in terms of what I thought was two excellent sessions, and some messages jumped out, and particularly in the last discussion. I mean, the emphasis on the requirement of what I would call precision management and the associated importance of assembling quality data and analysing that quality data came through loud and clear. I suppose the second point for me, which is I'm not sure how we're going to be able to deal with it, but there's clearly a huge importance for undertaking research and innovation that's production related. I made this point at the beginning today. And clearly from the presentations that we had, I was struck particularly by the discussion on trace elements, the complexity of the challenge, and identifying cause and effect and so on amid that complexity. That's obviously the basis of what research should be about. We're reliant instead, it seems to me, to a large extent, certainly in Northern Ireland, on the insights provided by the likes of Claire, Beckett and Keith, Guy, in providing insights. But of course, I make no bones about saying this, we should also have an emphasis in the public research that's undertaken on these matters as well. And productivity-based research and sustainability research are both required, particularly as we anticipate the challenges that are down the road and in the not-too-distant future. And it strikes me that there is a need to rebalance the research agenda. I mean, after all, it's public resources we're talking about, whether they be in the universities or the research institutions. And they should complement what's been done by individual farmers and indeed by the private sector. And I mean, there is a need for production-based research. And someone was mentioned there of the experience in other countries, and it isn't by any means universal, but when I go to New Zealand, for example, I can find an emphasis within the research community, although it's shifting to some degree, on production-based research. An advisory service that's linked in very closely, a public advisory service that's linked in very closely with production research. And it seems to me that's an absolute requirement. Anyway, I could go on and I won't. But I just want to make a number of thank yous. First of all, I want to thank you yourselves for attending in such large numbers. Clearly, I think this event has identified there is a need for this kind of information. And it needs to be built on in terms of a commitment and investment, a significant public investment in research and innovation that focuses on, as I say, productivity. I want to thank your contribution through providing questions and making comments for the panel. Our sponsors, of course, without them we wouldn't have been able to mount today. That's Dale Farm, Lakeland, Arrivo and Leprino. I do want to thank St. Clair Main, who's the scientific advisor to AgriSearch, and I should also acknowledge the support we got from Alan and David Irwin. I think it was Alan raised the point to me it's nearly 2 years ago now, that we needed to have a balance in terms of the kind of systems that we talked about. And I hope at least that today we've managed to go some way towards delivering that balance. But we're a small organisation. We represent levy payers. We don't have the resources to undertake the research that's needed. We can identify the priorities. We can provide, as we have, a structure for enabling the trialling of research and innovation on farms. But we don't have the resources to conduct the kind of research at the level that's needed. Our speakers also, of course, deserve huge thanks for the effort they've put in, the presentations they've made. Conor Casey, Keith Guy, Niall O'Boyle. I've lost the O somewhere, Niall, along the way. I don't know what happened to it. Glad to see you've retained it. Claire Beckett and Annie Williams. Our chairpersons, Mark Little, Ian McCluggage and Gary Thompson. And finally, I want to thank my own colleagues in AgriSearch, John Morrow, Jasmine Morton, Jason Rankin and Sean Kane, of course. And finally, again, to repeat, I'd like you to take a few minutes to complete the conference feedback survey. And thank you again for your attendance.